उल्टा लगा।
Punjabi Hari Raya Bhakti Jaya Bhakti Yes, He jai. 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 Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hari Hari Bol.
So everyone can come forward a little bit. I would move towards you, but then this whole thing will get messed up. So you can. Those on Zoom can also come forward. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. We're continuing the story of Lord Vamanadeva and Bali Maharaj that we began yesterday. And today we are in Canto 8, Chapter 18, which is called Lord Vamanadeva, the Dwarf Incarnation. And it's text number 29 that we begin with today. So 8, 18, 29. Yes. Attention, right? Okay, everyone have it? 8, 18, 29. You can find it on vedabase.io. So at this point in the story, the Lord has arrived in the Yagyashala, the arena of sacrifice for of Bali Maharaj. And now Bali Maharaj is going to now greet Vamandev. And these songs these verses of greeting are very beautiful in the way that one can greet a great devotee or sage or purified person who comes to one's home. So please repeat. Shri Baliruvacha.
Shri Baliruvacha.
Swagatam te namastubhyam.
Swagatam te namastubhyam.
Brahman kim karavamate.
Brahman kim karavamate.
Arshtinam tapa saksham.
Brahmanishinam tapa saksham.
Manye tvaryavapurdharam.
Manye tvaryavapurdharam.
Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Bali Maharaj then said to Lord Vamandev, O Brahman, I offer you my hearty welcome and my respectful obeisances. Please let us know what we may do for you. Kim Karavamate. We think of you as the personified austerity of the great Brahman sages. Text 30. Adyana pitarastripta.
Adyana pitarastripta.
Adyana Adhyana Pavitam Kulam
Adhyanapavitam kulam
Yasvishta Kraturayam
Adhyasvishta kraturayam
Yadbhavanagato Grihan.
Yadbhavanagato rehan.
O my Lord, because you have kindly arrived at our home, all my forefathers are satisfied. Our family and entire dynasty have been sanctified, and the sacrifice we are performing is now complete because of your presence. Adhyagnayo me suhata yatha vidhi
Adhyaganav me suhataya bhavidhi
Vijatmajatva charana bani janai
Dvijatmajatvacharanavadhe vadhe
Atang haso varbhiyam cha bhuraho
Prabhujaho
Tha punita tanubhi padaistava.
Tata punita tanuvi padaistava.
O son of a Brahmana, today the fire of sacrifice is ablaze according to the injunction of the Shastra, and I have been freed from all the sinful reactions of my life by the water that has washed your lotus feet. We discussed this yesterday. O my Lord, by the touch of your small lotus feet, the entire surface of the world has been sanctified. And now comes the famous promise, which gets Bali Maharaj both into trouble and makes him a Mahajan. Yad yad vato vanchasi tat praticha me
Yadyavato vanchasi tatramikshame
Vamartinam viprasutanutarkaye
Vamartinam viprasutana
Kam kanchanam gunavadhamamrishtam
Ganganchanam gunavadhamishtam
Napeyam utava viprakanyam
Rathanapeyam utava vipanyam
Raman samriddhan sturagan gajan va Ratham satharhat tamasam praticha. O son of a Brahman, it appears that you have come here to ask me for something. Therefore, whatever you want, you may take from me. O best, this is yad yad vato vanchasi tat pratichame. O whatever you want, you may take from me. O best of those who are worshipable, you may take from me a cow, gold, a furnished house, palatable food and drink, the daughter of a Brahmana for your wife, prosperous villages, horses, elephants, chariots, or whatever you desire. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 8th canto, 18th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Lord Vamanadev, the Dwarf Incarnation. So let's keep reading in the next chapter. We'll come to Vamanadev's reply. But first, Shukadev Goswami, he speaks in text 1 of chapter 19. Shri Shukavacha
Vishukavacha
iti vairochaner vakyam
iti vairochanervakyam
mayuktam sunritam
dharmayuktam sapunyam
Vishamya Bhagavan Prita
Vishamya Bhagavan Pita
Tinanditam Abravi.
Pratinante Mahamabhave.
Shukadev Goswami continued, when the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vamanadev, heard Bali Maharaj speaking in this pleasing way, he was very satisfied, for Bali Maharaj had spoken in terms of religious principles. Thus, the Lord began to praise him. Now we come to wonderful verses where the Lord praises Bali Maharaj, but also his entire family, Vairochana or Virochana and Prahlad Maharaj. Shri Bhagavan Vacha
Shri Bhagavan Vacha
Vachastavaita Janadeva Sunritam
Vachastvadeda Janadeva
Pulochitam dharmayutam yashaskaram
Purohitam dharmayutam saskaram.
yasya pramanam bhigavas samparaye pitamaha kulavriddha prashanta. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O King, you are indeed exalted because your present advisors are the Brahmins who are descendants of Bhrigu, and because your instructor for your future life is your grandfather, the peaceful and venerable Prahlad Maharaj. Your statements are very true, and they completely agree with religious etiquette. They are in keeping with the behavior of your family, and they enhance your reputation. Next 3. Na hyetasmin kule kaschin
Nahetasmin kule kachin.
sattva kripana puman
Nisattva kripanam kuman.
vishrutya
Pratyakhyata pradishrutya.
Dvijataye.
Yoga vidataye.
I know that even until now, no one taking birth in your family has been poor-minded or miserly. No one has refused to give charity to Brahmanas, nor after promising to give charity has anyone failed to fulfill his promise. So the Lord is, he's setting the stage, right? He's confirming everything, reminding him of what he needs to do. He doesn't know yet what he needs to do, but he's preparing him for that. And then, the next verse is a very beautiful glorification of Prahlad Maharaj. Nasanti tirthe yudhi charthe narthita
Nasanti tirthe yudhicharthi narthita.
parang mukhaye tvamanasvino nripa
Paramukhaye tvamanasvino nripa.
matkule yad yashasamalena
Yusmat kuleya yasusamalena.
Prahlada udbhati yathodupa kalkhe.
Prahalādubhāti yadodupahakare.
O King Bali, never in your dynasty has the low-minded king been born, who upon being requested has refused charity to Brahmins in holy places or a fight to Kshatriyas on a battlefield. And your dynasty is even more glorious due to the presence of Prahlad Maharaj, who is like the beautiful moon in the sky. So it's amazing actually how many times the Lord references Prahlad Maharaj in the story. And then again, Prahlad Maharaj also appears in the final chapter. After Bali Maharaj offers everything to the Lord, then Prahlad Maharaj appears at that point to give his blessings to Bali Maharaj, but also to offer prayers to the Lord. And there also is described that Prahlad Maharaj appeared like the moon in the night sky, because the family of demons is not particularly very auspicious, right? They're like the night. They're very dark in terms of their nature and their sinful activities and everything. But when the moon appears in the night sky, then it becomes very beautiful. The night becomes very pleasant, very joyful. So in the same way, Prahlad Maharaj, he appears like the moon on the night sky. In other words, even though the background is very dark, still he himself is very brilliant, and he makes everything look very beautiful. So we're at that point now. We're going to skip a few verses to keep moving in the story, but the Lord continues after praising Prahlad Maharaj. He continues to praise then Hiranyaksha, who he says is was so powerful that it took the Lord a little bit of struggle in order to defeat him. So Krishna is on the one hand he's praising Bali Maharaj to encourage him to give in charity, but on the other hand he's speaking very truthfully from his own experience of what it was like to kill these demons. He says that the fight was very severe with Hiranyaksha, and the Lord killed Hiranyaksha with great difficulty. he says. And then, and after he killed him, he felt very victorious. He thought, I've accomplished something, because this was no ordinary demon. And then he praises Hiranyakashipu, who he says that he was so devoted to his brother that he normally people keep enmity for a few years. You know, when you have a fight with someone, after a few years, everyone calms down and people move on. But he said his enmity was everlasting. He never stopped being angry towards me as a result of killing him. So he offers that as a point of praise, as a good point for Hiranyakashipu. And he talks about how the Lord himself was so concerned about Hiranyakashipu's strength that he hid from him, that he had to hide so that he wouldn't find him. And so eventually, the Lord hid, couldn't find any place where Hiranyakashipu would not chase him. So in the end, he hid in the core of his heart, because it's the only place that Hiranyakashipu would not be able to find him. Because the Lord says he was so much absorbed in his external senses that he had no capacity to look within his heart. So that's where the Lord finally found some safety, that is in the heart of Hiranyakashipu. So he speaks of Hiranyakashipu, then he speaks of his father, Virochan, and how Virochan gave everything in charity. He was so powerful, but at the same time, he was very charitable. And so the demigods decided that the easiest way to get rid of him as their enemy was to go in the guise of Brahmins and to beg from him his own life. And he knew exactly what was happening. He immediately recognized these Brahmins, so-called Brahmins, as actually demigods, devas in disguise. But still, he did not hesitate to give his life in charity. So after he praises all of them, then the Lord makes his ask from Bali Maharaj. This is text number 16 now. Tasmat tvatto mahimisha
Tasmadvasto Mahimisha
Neham varadarshabha
Varneham Varadarshabhat
Padani Trini Daityendra
Padani Trini Daitendra
Pitani Pada Mama.
Sammitani Pada Mama.
O King of the Daityas, from your majesty, from whom comes who come from such a noble family, and who are able to give charity munificently, I ask only 3 paces of land to the measurement of my steps. Nadyate kamaye rajan
Nanante Kamaye Rajan
vadanya jagadishvara
Padhyanya Jagadishvara
naina prapnoti vai vidvan
Naina Prapnoti Vai Vidvan
pratigraha.
Yavatvarta Pratigraha.
O King, controller of the entire universe, although you are very munificent and are able to give me as much land as I want, I do not want anything from you that is unnecessary. If a learned Brahmin takes charity from others only according to his needs, he does not become entangled in sinful activities. So Bali Maharaj does not find this very convincing, his request, and so he responds in this way. Shri Baliruvacha
Shri Bhadevacha
Aho Brahmana Dayada Chaste Vriddha Sammata
Vachaste Vritta Samyata
Shamate
Tvampano Varishamati
Svatham Pratyabhudo Yatha.
Swartam Pratyabhudo Yatha.
Bali Maharaj said, O son of a Brahmin, your instructions are as good as those of learned and elderly persons. Nonetheless, you are a boy, and your intelligence is insufficient. Thus, you are not very prudent in regard to your self-interest. So he's saying, like we often tell children, that, oh, you're speaking like a big person, but actually your intelligence is not very well developed. Mam vachobhi samaradhya
Mahavayogi Samadhyam
kaname kamishwaram
Loganame Kanishwaram
trayam vrinitoyo
Padatrayam Vinitoyo
buddhiman dvipadashusham.
Buddhiman Dvipadashusham.
I'm able to give you an entire island because I'm the proprietor of the three divisions of the universe. You have come to take something from me and have pleased me by your sweet words, but you are asking only 3 paces of land. Therefore, you are not very intelligent. So this is the exact sense of proprietorship, ownership that the Lord wants to rid Bali Maharaj of, and he's going to do so very quickly. But this island he's talking about, this is one of the planetary systems, right? Jambu Dweep is an entire island. So each one of the planets is an island in the ocean of space. And so he's offering him an entire planet if he wants. Na puman mamupavrajya
Napuman Upadrajya
yo yachitum arhati
Uyo Yachutumarhati
karim bhumim
Tasmad Vikti Karim Bhumin
vatokam pratichame.
Vartokaman Pratichame.
O small boy, one who approaches me to beg something should not have to ask anything more anywhere. Therefore, if you wish, you may ask from me as much land as will suffice to maintain you according to your needs. And then the Lord offers very nice instructions for all of us. He says, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Yavanto Vishaya Srishtha Silokyam Ajitendriyam Shapnuvanti Te Sarve
Shaknuvanti Te Sarve
Pratipurayitum Nripa.
Pratipuryatum Nirpa.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear King, even the entirety of what there may be within the 3 worlds to satisfy one's senses cannot satisfy a person whose senses are uncontrolled. Yeah, so let's make it to 24. Tribhi krama, well, 22 and then go. Tribhi kramaira santushto
Vivikram Santushto
vipena pina puryate
Vipenapi Namuryate
navavarsha sametena
Navavarsha Sametena
pradvipa varechaya.
Sabdadipa Varichaya.
If I were not satisfied with 3 paces of land, then surely I would not be satisfied even with possessing one of the 7 islands, consisting of 9 varshas. Even if I possessed 1 island, I would hope to get the other. Saptadvipādhipatayo
Saptadvipādhipatayo
Vipavainya Gayadaya
Vipavainya Gayadaya
Taikamai Gatanantam
Ataikanirgatanam tam
Krishnaya iti nashrutam.
Krishnaya iti nashrutam.
We have heard that although powerful kings like Maharaj Prithu and Maharaj Gaya achieved proprietorship over the 7 dvipas, they could not achieve satisfaction or find the end of their ambitions. Yadrichayo papannena
Yadrishayo prapannena
vartate sukham
Santushto vartate sukham
Santushtastribhir lokai
Santushtastribhirlokai
Ajitapasaditai.
Adhikatmadosatikai.
One should be satisfied with whatever he achieves by his previous destiny, for discontent can never bring happiness. A person who is not self-controlled will not be happy even with possessing the three worlds. Report by Srila Prabhupada. If happiness is the ultimate goal of life, one must be satisfied with the position in which he is placed by providence. This instruction is also given by Prahlad Maharaj. Sukhamaintriyaktam daitya deha yogena dehinam sarvatra labhyate daivat yatha dukkham ayatnata. My dear friends born of demoniac families, the happiness perceived with reference to the sense objects by contact with the body can be obtained in any form of life, according to one's past fruitive activities. Such happiness is automatically obtained without endeavor, just as we obtain distress. This philosophy is perfect in regard to obtaining happiness. Real happiness is described in Bhagavad Gita 6:21. Sukham atyantikam yattad buddhigrahyam matindriyam veti yatra nachaivadyam stitaschalati tattvataha. In the spiritually joyous state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness and enjoys himself through transcendental senses. Established thus, one never departs from the truth. One has to perceive happiness by the super senses. The super senses are not the senses of the material elements. Every one of us is a spiritual being, aham brahmasmi, and every one of us is an individual person. Our senses are now covered by material elements, and because of ignorance, we consider the material senses that cover us to be our real senses. The real senses, however, are within the material covering. Dehinosmin yatha dehe. Within the covering of the material elements are the spiritual senses. Sarvopagi vinirmuktam tat paratvena nirmalam. When the spiritual senses are uncovered, by these senses we can become happy. Satisfaction of the spiritual senses is thus described. Rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhaktir uchyate. When the senses are engaged in devotional service to Rishikesh, then the senses are completely satisfied. Without this superior knowledge of sense gratification, one may try to satisfy his material senses, but happiness will never be possible. One may increase his ambition for sense gratification and even achieve what he desires for the gratification of his senses. But because this is on the material platform, he will never achieve satisfaction and contentment. According to Brahminical culture, one should be content with whatever he obtains without special endeavor. He should cultivate spiritual consciousness. Then he will be happy. The purpose of the Krishna consciousness movement is to spread this understanding. People who do not have scientific spiritual knowledge mistakenly think that the members of the Krishna consciousness movement are escapists trying to avoid material activities. In fact, however, we are engaged in real activities for obtaining the ultimate happiness in life. If one is not trained to satisfy the spiritual senses and continue in material sense gratification, he will never obtain happiness that is eternal and blissful. Srimad Bhagavatam therefore recommends, Tapo divyam putraka yena sattvam shuddhet yasmat brahmasokhyam tvanantam. One must practice austerity so that his existential position will be purified and he will achieve unlimited blissful life. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Shri Guruve Namaha. So, Lord Vamandev is giving a very wonderful lesson for all of us to think about. That these very actually famous words. He says, if one is not satisfied with what one needs, 3 paces of land, you won't be satisfied even after gaining the entire universe. One won't be satisfied. There's this story for children, which is, I don't know where it comes from actually. I heard it from my grandmother. That there's this one very rich landowner who tells his he tells the entire village. He says, you start from my house, and whatever amount of land you can walk around, right, or run around, and come back before sunset, that much land you can have for yourself. And after he put out that challenge, so many people walked around. And in the end, he gave away no land at all. Because no one could make it home in time for sunset. Like, everyone thought just a little bit more. Right? Let me get that pond and then that tree and then around this mountain and I'll still make it. And no one actually made it in time for sunset. Why? Because it was a demonstration of a person's greed. And so this is what Vaman Dev is telling Bali Maharaj, that if I'm not satisfied with 3 paces of land, which is how much land a person needs to sleep, right, then I won't be satisfied no matter how much opulence I have. And we see this in the world today, right, that it doesn't matter how wealthy a person is and how much capacity and how much possession they have. There's never any satisfaction as a result. You know, people who who walk because they don't have money to use any other conveyance, they become very jealous of those who have a bicycle to move around. And those who have a bicycle become very jealous of those who drive in a car. And those who drive in a car become very jealous of those who have a chauffeured car, who have a driver and can sit in the back and have a limo to drive in a black car. And those who are in that become very jealous of those who can fly. And those who can fly become very jealous of those who sit in first class. And those who sit in first class become very jealous of those who have a private plane. And those who have a private plane become very jealous of those who have jumbo jets. And those who have jumbo jets, they don't know what to do, how to increase their enjoyment. So then they create companies in order to shoot up into the sky and to create space shuttles to colonize other lands and other worlds, right? So this is the story of every unsatisfied person in this world. Whether you look at Hiranyakashipu, who after conquering heaven still had more desires, right? Couldn't be satisfied, or Ravana, or just any person who is unsatisfied. There's no end to how much you can enjoy. There's always more desire. Even if you reach the very limits of the universe, there's still those desires don't die. They're always still there. And so this is one of the great principles of Krishna consciousness, is the idea of satisfaction. Just yesterday, we were reading this little Bhagavad Gita in front of Srila Prabhupada. It's tiny little. We opened it up to a random verse. And the verse that Krishna was saying there was, Yadricha labha santushto dvandva tito dvandva tito what is the word? Vimatsana. Vimatsana. Krishna was saying that this is chapter 4 of Bhagavad Gita, that Yadricha labha santushto, that we have to be satisfied with whatever labha, yadricha, it comes of its own accord. Because we all have some gain that comes with effort, but not over effort. Just we make some effort, and from that it comes quite naturally. So Krishna is saying, Yadricha labha santushto. One has to be very satisfied with that. And vimatsana, and not envious of those who have a little bit more than we do. And vanvatito vimatsana. In this way, he says, na nibadhyate. We will never be bound in this world. Right? We'll always have freedom without that envy. So for devotees then, that we practice this principle of satisfaction, santushta. This is described by Rupa Goswami in Nectar of Instruction, where he says, Atyahara prayasascha prajalpo niyamagraha janasangascha lorimcha shadvir bhakti vidashyati. The 6 things destroy devotional service. And the first thing he mentions in that list is atyahara, which means either overeating or over collecting, right? To try to get more than what we need. And over collecting leads very directly to the second one, which is prayasa, or over endeavor. Because in order to satisfy those desires for which we're never satisfied, then we have to endeavor too much, right? Constantly we have to keep endeavoring and attempting. So then the solution that Srila Prabhupada describes in the first verse of Isha Upanishad, the first mantra, he says, is the Ishavasya principle. Ishavasyam idam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bhunjita ma grida kasya swidhanam. That everyone has a right to something in this world, because we all need to live, we all need to exist. And as children of the Supreme Lord, we all have a right to what He's given us. Right? Just like every child has a right to ask for food from their parents. But we have to remember Isha-vasyam, that everything is controlled and owned by the Supreme Lord. And therefore we should only take yat kincha, what is our quota, and not more than that. What is required for us. And in fact, as we practice Krishna consciousness, we come to realize that actually our quota is much, much less than what we think it is. Right? We think, oh, this is how much my quota is. And then we realize, actually, I can do with less than that. And then after some time, we realize, oh, actually, I can do with even less. And then we realize I can do with even less. And in this way, this whole process continues of gradual reduction over time. This is the exact opposite of what happens in the material world. In general society, everyone's constantly trying to increase their capacity for enjoyment, right? If I can do with this much, then why don't I try to get this much? And if I get this much, why don't I try to get this much, right? So you're constantly expanding one's capacity. And in Vaishnava culture, one is constantly trying to reduce one's capacity. How little can I live off of? How little can I eat? How little can I use for my own self? And the rest I can then give to Krishna. I can engage in his service while minimizing my own necessities. So this principle of satisfaction, Prabhupada is describing in the purport. He says several times, he says this is the key to happiness. If our goal is to be happy, then that happiness can only be born when we are satisfied with what we have, and not constantly struggling for more and more. In fact, this principle of satisfaction applies even in one's spiritual life. Right? That even though in one's spiritual life, one has to be always very eager to achieve more, to advance further. But even in one's spiritual life, this principle of satisfaction holds. Right? How? Because we have to be very satisfied with what is given to us by our spiritual master. Right? Our spiritual master gives us a certain instruction or a certain gift. And we take that gift and we hold it close to our hearts, and we remain very satisfied by that gift. Just like there's a wonderful story in Chaitanya Charitamrita of this Brahmin who had been instructed by his spiritual master to read Bhagavad Gita. Right? And that he was not very literate. He knew basics, but not very well. So he would mispronounce, and he would mess up the meter, and people would laugh at him. They would joke at him. What is he trying to do? He doesn't know. But as he was reading, he would read Bhagavad Gita, and he would experience great ecstasy. Right? He would think of Krishna and Arjun, and how Arjun is Krishna's pure devotee, and Krishna is willing to serve as his charioteer and to serve his devotee. And just thinking of that relationship, he would cry. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw him when he arrived, this is in Sri Rangam, in Rangakshetra. He arrived there, he stayed for 4 months in the rainy season. He met this Brahmin and he asked him, he said, why are you crying? And he explained. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, you are the real knower of Bhagavad Gita. Right? You actually understand what is Bhagavad Gita. Why? Just by following that instruction of the spiritual master. As simple as it was, right? It was just very simple instruction. Read Bhagavad Gita every day. In fact, his spiritual master had asked him all 18 chapters every day. So a very simple instruction. Right? This is the instruction Prabhupada has given to all of us. We have to read Bhagavad Gita. Just by that, with that sincerity and with that devotion, right, he achieved a level of bhakti that even Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was impressed by. Like the Lord really took him as the highest devotee, even though the world laughed at his simplicity, his incapacity, and so on. Right? So, in other words, this principle of santushta, of satisfaction, applies even in our spiritual life. Right? That we remain satisfied with the what we have been given by our spiritual master. If that spiritual master is bona fide, we'll see later on in the same story that if the spiritual master is not bona fide, then there's no point in remaining satisfied with someone who cannot lead us back home back to Godhead. And then that Shukracharya is an example of that, who was a materialistic guru. He was Kul Guru, but not Sat Guru. Right? He was a spiritual master who was, he was not a spiritual master, he was a family priest. And his main concern in this situation was that if Bali Maharaj gives everything away, then there's going to be nothing left from my dakshina. And so he was very, very concerned about this point. So he wanted to preserve the wealth of his disciple so that he would be well supported. So this, if that kind of guru is there, then there's no point in holding on. Then we should not be santushta. We should not be satisfied. We have to always want to achieve the highest perfection in bhakti. But when we have the perfect spiritual master, right, that is someone who is giving us instructions, ideally, like His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, right? When Srila Prabhupada is giving us instructions, then we have to be very satisfied with the instructions we have achieved and have the full conviction that just by following those instructions, Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitite Koriya Aikya, Ar na Koriho Mane, that we sing in Guru Puja, that Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitite Koriya Aikya, that we need to take the words of the spiritual master and make them one with our heart. They should be non-different from our heart. What does that mean? That anytime we desire something, automatically, we don't even have to think about it. We are desiring something that is in accord with our spiritual master's desire. Ar na koriyo mane asha. I don't have any other desire besides that. So this is described by Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita also, where he says, Vyavasayatmika buddhi ekeha kurunandana bahushaka hinantascha buddhayo vyavasayi. And Srila Prabhupada and Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan, they explain that Vyavasayatmika buddhi mean that one has to have one focused intelligence, right? Vyavasaya atmika buddhi. Ekeha, one pointed, Purunandana. And what does that one pointedness mean? That means that we are completely one pointed on the instruction of our spiritual master. And that then becomes our life and soul. And as a result of that activity, then we are able to become completely self-satisfied. And when we become satisfied, then we are able to actually become happy, right, in that position. And therefore, we find that those who are practicing Krishna consciousness are always happy for that reason. Right? Krishna describes this in Bhagavad Gita. He says, Pratyakshavagaman dharmyam susukham kartum avyayam. That this process is susukham, is very joyfully performed. Why? Because the devotee becomes very satisfied in performing. That this is yayatma suprasidati. That the heart is very satisfied as a result of practicing Krishna consciousness. So then in every situation, we are happy and we have nothing to complain about. And this is one of the things that I've most appreciated in looking at the activities in the life of my spiritual master, Hanuman Preshaka Swami, that he's always satisfied in any situation he's in. Right? Whether it's cold or hot, or he's sick, or just recently we were in Houston visiting him and he had the flu or something similar to that. And even in that situation, he was very satisfied. Right? He was listening to Srimad Bhagavatam class, he was doing the morning program, he was maintaining his Krishna consciousness, and his consciousness was not shaken as a result of that physical sickness. Yes? Yeah. So in that way, that stability is always there. That happiness, that joyfulness is always there, regardless of whatever condition that we might be in, because we are satisfied with what Krishna gives us in any circumstance. So that's the very nice lesson that Vamandev is giving to us in these verses. And to Bali Maharaj. Of course, the Lord will do something more because he wants Bali Maharaj to completely surrender. We'll see that tomorrow. Actually, tomorrow we'll see the exchange between Shukracharya and Bali Maharaj, and how Shukracharya is instructing Bali Maharaj incorrectly, and how Bali Maharaj then rejects his instruction and instead takes on a higher instruction of surrendering to Krishna. So we'll see that relationship with one's guru and what it means to be a perfect guru. But for this point, the Lord is giving Bali Maharaj a very nice instruction that no matter what circumstance you are in, always be happy and satisfied in my service. So I'll stop there and see if there's any questions or comments or thoughts that anyone has on this point. Yes,
So, Prabhuji, about this point of satisfaction in spiritual life, Rup Goswami Pad also gave this principle that one should be in lolyam, have greed, and that is the qualification to be perfect in spiritual life. So how do we understand both? I mean, we, want to be satisfied. At the same time, there has to be greed to, be deepened in our spiritual lives and attain the perfection. So how do we?
Yes. Very nice question. So we have to be greedy to advance in Krishna consciousness more and more. Never be satisfied with that. Right? We have to be very greedy to advance, to attain bhakti. And we have to be very satisfied with the means to do that. That has been the tools that we have been given to do that by the spiritual master. Never feeling that the spiritual master has not given me what I need to live, that he's not giving me more. Then if we start feeling that way, then we become over intelligent, right? Then we step over, just like Sri Chaitanya illustrates this example, right? That when he visits Prakashananda Saraswati and the sannyasis of Banaras, then at that point, then he says, the Prakashananda Saraswati says that, yes, it is very nice that you are chanting Hare Krishna and doing Sankirtan. We have no objection. But why don't you also study Vedanta with me? This is the duty of a sannyasi. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu famously replies, he says, Amar Guru Moram Murkha Dekhi, that my spiritual master saw that I was a fool. Therefore, he said, you just chant Hare Krishna. You're not qualified to study Vedanta. Of course, the Lord is most qualified, but he's showing by his example, right? That if the spiritual master has given us Bhagavad Gita to read, then we read Bhagavad Gita, right? This is our life and soul. And from that, we can develop Bhava Bhakti, Prema Bhakti, everything. We can develop that, right? And if the spiritual master has given us the deity to worship, then we worship the deity. And by that, we'll achieve everything that we want to achieve in Krishna consciousness. So we're completely satisfied by the means of service. We're never satisfied with our own level of advancement in that service. Another very nice example is that of Shabri in Valmiki Ramayana. Right? Shabri was instructed by her guru that you remain. So her spiritual master, what was his name? Do you remember? Matangam, yes. So he left for the spiritual world with all his disciples. The whole ashram went, but he left Shabri behind. And he said that your great benefit and liberation will come when you meet Lord Ramachandra face to face. Very great blessing. He said, you remain here and you take care of this ashram, because I, that is the spiritual master, I'm always present here in this ashram. So you remain here and you take care of this ashram. This is my residence. And as a result of that service, one day you'll meet Lord Ramachandra directly. So every day she would take care of the ashram and she would create a pathway of flowers for the Lord to arrive. Right? Every day she would do this for how many years? She did? 90 plus years. Think about that. Right? So much service she did. Never once thinking that, oh, what is this? My guru. Like he took everyone else and he left me here. Right? And I'm supposed to sweep and clean. Like, this is not fair. It's not fair. And I have to make flowers and so on. And so much so satisfied she was by the instruction of her spiritual master. Every day she would lay out that, and one day the Lord himself arrived, right? And she had an opportunity to serve him directly as a result.
The end is more interesting. He says, okay, like that. Go down to the conquered anger and he conquered, envy. I don't know.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, for Rocky, that was very interesting to me that he asked, in some way, I said, you get angry because you're not satisfied.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Anger is a result of dissatisfaction. And when we're frustrated with something, this is why Krishna says, Gita says, Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsa Sangasteshu Pajayate. Sangat Sanjayate Kama, Kama Krodho Vijayate. That Krodha is born from Kama. Kama, why? Desire, meaning. Because when desires are unsatisfied, or they frustrate us, we don't feel the satisfaction that we want, then that gives rise to Krodha, to anger. So when we're satisfied with what Krishna has given us, then anger also is very peaceful, right? That this is okay. This is what Krishna has provided me. This is the service he's given me. This is the opportunities that he's given me, and I'm satisfied with what the Lord has given me, and I will execute this to the best of my ability.
There's a danger there too. Satisfied and many times you want more. The pride and envy. Put anger is when you're not satisfied. Envy and pride.
Yes. Yeah. Envy is a result of that same dissatisfaction. This person has it, why don't I? Right? So we become envious of that person's progress, their ability, their growth. Right? So it's satisfaction is not the same thing as complacency. When we're complacent in our spiritual life, it means that we give up the desire to advance further. Then we become because one of the things that devotional service does is one of the first symptoms of devotional service described in Nectar Devotion is that Klesha Agni, it destroys our material miseries. And Shubhada, it makes everything very auspicious. So what happens is when we start performing the practice of bhakti, our life transforms for the better. And we feel a great sense of relief from the day-to-day miseries of material existence. And we feel like, wow, this is so much nicer. Right? Krishna took care of so many things for me. Of course, they don't entirely go away, all our troubles and sufferings, because we're in the material world. But initially, Krishna gives a lot of relief. Klesha, he destroys our klesha and makes things auspicious. So it's very easy to become attached to that and to say, okay, this life is very good. Right? And Krishna conscious life is very good. Means you associate with devotees, and there's no better people to associate with. Right? Everyone's kind and courteous and gentle and so on. And you have nice prasad, and you have great kirtan festivals, and you feel some inspiration, and you feel inspired, and that makes you very happy. Right? So we have, it's a good place to be, to have good friendships, and you feel a sense of satisfaction, complacency that comes from this. And that becomes a great trap in our devotional service, because it means that we lose our desire to advance, to get the highest levels of bhakti, which is actually very troublesome to get there. It takes a lot of effort and a lot of work, and Krishna puts us through a lot of struggle as a result of that. So we don't want to be cheated of the ultimate result or goal, right? Which is actual attachment to Krishna, this asakti, this great attachment to the Lord. We don't want to be cheated of that. So complacency is a very dangerous thing in Krishna consciousness, because it means that we become satisfied with our own level of advancement. We think, no, I'm good, right? I've achieved what I want to, and this is actually a very pleasant experience. And then our ambitions start to become for material things, as my father is saying. Then we are looking for things like puja, lab, and pratishtha, that let me now advance in such a way that people will recognize my great bhakti, and they will revere me, respect me, and worship me for that. So then we seek position and prestige and power, even within the community of devotees. We want to be master, we want to be in charge, we want to be controlling, we want to guide others, we want to teach them, right? So this then becomes a upadhi, a blockage in our spiritual path, because we've become complacent in our own advancement. We've become satisfied with our own advancement because we think we are very advanced. So therefore, we are very satisfied. Right? That's, what is there more to achieve when I'm already such a nice devotee? And then our desire becomes to show others how nice of a devotee we are, and to be very generous in giving our guidance to others. And then that creates this mentality of pride that produces. So that when there's a false sense of satisfaction in one's own Krishna conscious level, that is called complacency, and it leads to pride. And when there's satisfaction in the process of Krishna consciousness and in the instruction of our spiritual master, that is called faith, and that's Shraddha. And that takes us all the way back to that. So this sense of satisfaction has to be placed very appropriately in the right location. If we place that satisfaction in ourselves, then it becomes the birthplace of pride, that we're very satisfied with where we're at, and we become cheated of the ultimate goal, which is actual attachment to Krishna. And instead, Krishna, or we become satisfied with lesser things. Krishna gives us some little sweet to eat, and we feel very satisfied. Yes, people are recognizing my body. But when that same satisfaction is applied to our own, the instructions of the spiritual master, when that satisfaction is applied towards the process of Krishna consciousness, then we advance, because that is called Shraddha, right? Shraddha Shabde Vishwas Kohe Sudrid Nishchay. Krishna Bhakti Kari Sarva Karma Kritna Hoy. That Shraddha Shabde Vishwas Kohe. Shraddha means the firm faith. Krishna Bhakti Kari Sarva Karma Kritna. That if I engage in devotional service to Krishna, if I engage in the service of my spiritual master, then Sarva Karma Krita Hoy. Then everything else will be taken care of. Right? The Lord will take care of the whole process for me. I don't have to worry or when I'm going to advance or how I'm going to advance.
So yeah, that brought up a very nice point of envy. So I was thinking that even in spiritual life, sometimes we think we want to advance, we want to make progress in spiritual life. At the same time, we feel envious of others who are making advancement in spiritual life. They know more shastras than me, or they, visit Dham more than me. So there is some envy. So in our discussion, are we saying that is not the real advancement in spiritual life, but that is actually for puja la pratishtha, and that's what makes us proud or envy ultimately? Is that right understanding?
Yeah, so envy, you can never be envious of someone's Krishna consciousness. The Krishna consciousness is all pleasing. When you see Krishna consciousness, someone, it naturally attracts the heart. So you can't be envious of someone's Krishna consciousness. What we become envious of is all the things that come with it. Right? Oh, this person knows more verses, this person has a better memory, this person has more position, this person is more expert in their service. Right? These are the things we get envious of, the externals of Krishna consciousness. Because when we practice devotional service, then naturally we become all the good qualities of the demigods appear in a person who is practicing Krishna consciousness. I forget the verse. Samasate Sura, it ends with that. But anyway, all these good qualities come into a person who's. So when we see those good qualities, means they're expert, they're very capable, they receive naturally, they're honored by others. Right? This is, fame, opulence, all these things come with devotee. when someone is not advanced, they see those external qualities,
Mm.
they become very envious of those qualities. Why is this person getting so much honor? I'm not getting honor. Why is this person so expert? I'm not so expert, right? And then we become very envious.
They go behind that, not the advancement in real spiritual life.
Yeah.
Ah.
Advancement in real spiritual life, if we are envious of someone's advancement,
And
then the only effect of that is that I mean it's not called envy, but if we're looking at that as our focus, then the only effect is that it makes us more determined and enthusiastic to advance. Just like I was with Tamal Krishna Goswami once, and we visited his. He was in at that time he was living in Cambridge doing his PhD, and writing his dissertation on Srila Prabhupada. Very nice book. It's called A Living Theology of Krishna Bhakti, where Tamal Krishna Maharaj explains in academic terms Srila Prabhupada's great contribution as a theologian and philosopher in our Sampradaya. So he was writing his dissertation and he was living in this apartment or ashram in Cambridge and in England. And he took us on a tour of his facility and we came to his temple room, his puja room. Very small, like I think the whole thing was probably maybe from the altar to about where this mat ends, right? This throne. It's just that big, maybe 3-4 people could sit in it. And he had his beautiful deities. And what I remember most is he had a full-size Murti of Srila Prabhupada, the original made by Lochan Prabhu, like full size. So you can imagine a room like this big, this how big this rug is, and then a full-size Murti of Prabhupada here on a raised Vyasasana. It was very like striking. And then he told us that this is the reason he has this Murti here is because he always has to be accountable to his spiritual master, right? He has to be. He's writing about Srila Prabhupada, and I have to sit in front of him every day, and I have to make sure that he's satisfied with the service that I'm doing for him, right? So he would do his japa there, and then he had these wonderful pictures up here of various places from Braj, so Govardhan and Radhakund and all his favorite places around Vrindavan. He had pictures. And he said, as I do my japa, then every day I visit these places on pilgrimage and go there. So we were all very moved by this. And we said, Maharaj, this is so wonderful what you're doing here, such a nice example of how to practice one's sadhana. And Maharaj said, oh, I have to do this because I'm seeing that some of my disciples are becoming more advanced than me. And I cannot tolerate this. This is too much. So he was speaking jokingly, but the point is, this is the result of real desire, right? That is not envious. Is that you see someone advancing, you think, I also want to advance. So it leads to more enthusiasm and determination. But when it's based on the externals, I want this person's position or power or whatever, their notoriety, then it becomes the birthplace of envy. And we become very envious of what they're doing. Because there can never be envy from Krishna consciousness. That's just called greed or desire. It's not envy. By definition, envy is for material things. It's for external things when we don't see. Right? So envy would have meant if Tamal Krishna Maharaj had thought, oh, my disciples are getting very advanced, so let me pull them down. Right? I'm Guru, so I'm going to tell them, no. Now you don't visit Vrindavan, you don't do this, you don't go there, right? You just whatever. So if he had tried to pull them down, that would have been envy. But instead, his disciples' advancement was serving as an impetus for his own advancement. In this way, even the competitive spirit can be used in Krishna's service when it inspires everyone to advance more in their practice. So as he was doing his wonderful service for Srila Prabhupada in the academic world, writing his books, at the same time, he was practicing very nice sadhana. Sure.
Now on the material side of things, even Vaman Dev mentioned word special endeavor, and we call it prayas. So, and there's a very fine line between, endeavor and over endeavor. So would you how to understand that fine line, like we are over endeavoring, or it's okay because we as grihastas we have to endeavor to get something.
Yeah. So yeah, over endeavor is it all depends on what one's particular position is, right? So if we have if naturally we have a lot of motive passion in our system,
Mm.
right? We have this rajoguna qualities there, then better we use it for Krishna's service and we endeavor hard, right, in his seva. And this way we can get rid of that motive passion and become more peaceful and in the mode of goodness. For others, over endeavor may be um, trying too hard to make plans, right? In terms of, oh, I want to do this, I want to get that. But basically, if our endeavor is putting a blockage in our practice of Krishna consciousness, right, then that endeavor is too much. For some people, they can do this much and perfectly execute their Krishna consciousness. Others can do only this much and their Krishna consciousness falls apart, right? So we have to measure how much endeavor is necessary based on whether or not it's negatively impacting.
So I'm afraid Maharaj gave a very good practical plan. And the asking for is it. So, what he does is that tries, if he does succeed in saying 3 times. And he says Krishna doesn't want. And I've seen that someone that do that. You call again. Finally, you call again. And then Krishna doesn't want to do it. And funny thing is, if you do the 4th time and he does pick up, you realize that, of course, there's a falling mood or something happening, and say, I'm sorry, I caught it. So, but, try 3 times, once, twice, thrice, it's nothing.
That's a very good point.
Yes, nothing.
Yeah, I have a question. Like we discuss about the anger and the desire in day-to-day life. Just I'm to ask that. In the day-to-day life, we expect from each other, from kids, to do this and that, right? So, is that expectation leads to our obstacle in the bhakti? Because as we said, we get angry, and then when we have angry, that means we are dissatisfied, and then if we are dissatisfied, then we cannot advance in our bhakti. So what is that? Is that our duty to correct that, or it is our obstacle towards the bhakti?
One of yeah, that's a very nice question. One of the results of Grihastha Ashram, one of the great benefits, gifts of Grihastha Ashram is we discover that we are not the controllers, right? That despite how much possession we have, as is my children, my family, my husband, my wife, my house, but actually things are not in our control, and everyone has their own desires, their own intelligence, their own willpower, their own abilities. Everything is even the house has its own system of working, and it breaks down, not in our control, right? So we realize that it's not in our control. So the point is, we have expectations. Expectations are not bad, but then when the results actually return, then we have to be satisfied with those results, right? So it's not that Krishna says we should not have goals or we shouldn't have expectations. No, Arjun had goals on the battlefield, right? What was his goal? It was to be victorious, to fight. Otherwise, why will you shoot arrows? You just sit down and do tapasya, right? The only reason you will fight is for victory and to be successful, right? To, like, as in when he's shooting his arrows, he has a target in mind. He's not just closing his eyes and okay, my job is to do the action. It doesn't matter whether it hits the target or not. No, he actually is focusing on his target, right? And what is his goal? To defeat that person. So he has expectations, he has goals. But the point is, when the result comes home, when the result returns, Sometimes your arrow, despite best efforts, will not hit the target or it will not be successful. Then we have to be satisfied. Right? So we attempt, if Krishna has given us responsibility over children and over family and house, then we have to make our best endeavor, right, to do our duty as parents and as husband and wife and so on. So we make that endeavor. And then whether that effort, that endeavor is successful or not, is up to Krishna. And when that result comes back, then we have to let go, right? That's the key thing, is that then we often, then at that point, we still hold on, right? Like that was my goal, and why didn't you do it, right? And it didn't come through, and you should have done it, and you have to admit that you made a mistake, and admit it to me, and we become angry and frustrated, and then we push again, right? And then in that way, we cause so much conflict. So we make the endeavor, and then when it's done, the endeavor, then we have to let go.
Thanks.
Okay, then.
There's like, okay, it's the try enough time and struggle. But there's like when Prabhupada he was trying to like when he came to the West, perspective on the and all of that. He had like so many times he like failed, like and he always start the legal to go to. Yeah, so he's still going there. Then how do we know whether they just we have to keep going or it's over there?
Yeah, very good. So this is where it really depends on our ability to understand Krishna's desire for us. At this point in our practice, it's very difficult for us to understand exactly what Krishna wants. So we have to take shelter of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. That by taking the instruction from Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, from our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, and from the Vaishnava devotees under whose care we are working, then we can understand whether something is, we need to continue trying or we need to let go. Because it also depends on our capacity, right? If we push too hard and we keep pushing, we may lose our enthusiasm. We become very frustrated and demoralized. I've tried 17 times and this is not happening. But for others, the 17 times may be still not enough. We may want to try 20 times, right? When Jarasandha came, then Krishna had how many times he fought him? 17 times, right? He fought him 17 times before finally he achieved his goal. So it depends on what, and as we then become more advanced, then we can get guidance from the super soul also. Jitatmana prashantasya paramatma samahita. Then we're connected to the Paramatma, then we can understand what Krishna wants. Does he want us to keep trying or does he want us to let go at this point? So in order to come to that level, to get guidance from the super soul, then Krishna describes the conditions for that. We have to be jitatmana. That means we have to be self-controlled. We have to be conquered our mind and our senses. And prashantasya, we have to be peaceful. Peaceful means that the anarthas are under control. Therefore, the heart and mind is peaceful, prashantasya. Jitatmana prashantasya. Then paramatma samahita. Then we're connected to the paramatma. Then we're connected to the super soul. So it's a combination of these things. Krishna gives some guidance in the heart. Sometimes, even at our level, occasionally you can feel Krishna is trying to tell you something. That there'll be all these signs that you see. Krishna's like, oh, this is what I need. This is what I want from you. And so even we can feel it sometimes, but it's not entirely reliable. So we always confirm, not just us, everyone, every devotee always confirms whatever we feel Krishna's guiding us with Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. And then we can understand, okay, I think now we have to stop endeavoring. Or no, I can continue pushing because Krishna wants me. Just like if you look at Prabhupada's story of building Juhu temple, right? We have Loknath Maharaj's account, Giriraj Maharaj's account. For us, it may seem like over endeavor. They think, oh, this is what Prabhupada doing. He keeps pushing and pushing. He fought so hard. He said it was the biggest battle of his life. It was to acquire Juhu Temple. So for us, at our level of advancement, it may be over endeavor. We may become frustrated and angry. We may start to cheat and lose our morality. We may start cursing others, right? We may do so many things because we don't have the capacity to maintain that much enthusiasm or determination. But Srila Prabhupada did. And Krishna expected that of him. Right? So how much is over endeavor depends on our level of advancement also. Just like what is atyahara depends on our level of advancement. So for one person eating, just 2 chapatis may be self-control, and for others, someone else eating 2 chapatis may be overeating, depending on where we're at in our Krishna consciousness. For Raghunath Das Goswami, taking Krishna Prasad from Jagannath Puri temple was atyahara. It was too much eating. That nice prasad, khajas, and everything you get. Jagannath Puri temple. That was too much. And for us to eat that prasad is great advancement. Today I ate Jagannath Krishna. It's so good. Right? So what is atyahara? What is prayas? It depends on our level of advancement. It's not universal. There's no absolute standard for everyone. Okay. I think our time is up. Well beyond up. Thank you all so much for your attention. Hare Krishna. Please come tomorrow at Subhasaka Prabhu's house for the third part, which is going to be the dialogue between Bali Maharaj and Shukracharya. We'll learn some important lessons there about the nature of Guru. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Prabhupada
Ki
ki
jai.
Bhagavatam
Ki jai. Space Radhika Ramana Prabhu Ki jai. And also then there will be the final session, concluding session on Saturday at our temple. So that will be very, very nice. In addition, we will be having a very, very special session Friday evening at Subhasaka Prabhu's place by His Grace Anant Rupa Prabhuji. So it's gonna be an amazing, amazing session where Prabhu will be talking about his whole life's experience of building the Boise Temple. So that will be very interesting, especially for a community like us, a small community, growing, budding community. So please be there. So, and also we would like to welcome and thank Janva Thakurani Mataji drove all the way from New Jersey to attend the session. So let's thank her and welcome her back by loudly chanting Haribol, Haribol. Thank you all very much. Huh? Oh, Mundi is also here. Back from Williamsburg. Okay. Thank you, dear devotees on Zoom. We'll continue this session same time tomorrow on the same Zoom link. Thank you very much.